Green economy comes from the governments, who should create a good institutional frame in order to enable it. One of the first steps should be forming a sustainable committee, says Serbian national consultant for Rio Plus 20 and chief delegate at the previous summit in Johannesburg, Anđelka Mihajlov.
We are proposing to have a strong sustainable development committee under the governmental structure, somewhere close to the Prime Minister, with the hubs in each ministry, the strongest hubs in the Ministry of Environment. It is very important to be some kind of regulatory body, not influenced by political parties, different interest groups. It is very important to have all stakeholders involved, but to have an independent opinion.
Yet, for successful legislation, there has to be a good approach that takes into account all the three pillars: the economic, the environmental, and the social, and is able to deliver a sustainable development result. A key to success is good governance, says program analyst at UNDP, Stamatios Christopoulos.
What is bringing these pillars together is policy. Good policy comes from good governance. Governance is the glue that is able to pull the three sustainable development strands together and work towards the desired or the expected outcome.
When it comes to green economy and sustainable development, countries such as Scandinavian ones are on a really high level. Still, this does not mean that we can look up to them all the time. In terms of approaches, one country can look up to another, but in terms of a cookbook, by copying their steps and actions, no, explains Christopoulos.
My green economy as a country is different from your green economy. Sustainable development in country A is different from the same thing in country B. What countries have to do is to sit down and to think what are their priorities, what are the gaps that they would like to fill in a green economy context, and focus on these things.
In many countries, the governance of sustainable development is within the environment ministries, but it has to include the subnational entities because the implementation is taking place at the subnational level, says UNEP's Deputy Director of the Regional Office for Europe, Jan Dušik.
The national level would typically do legislation and policy, but the implementation and the linkages with the everyday life must be done by either regions or provinces or municipalities, and they all need to be engaged in defining what it actually means in practice and how to make sure that we are not living in three separate avenues of environment, economy, social, but rather that everything is related.
For countries in European Union, the accession to the EU brought a very high standard of legislation. With the accession to the EU, there is access to funding, and all the projects implemented have to be in line with environment and sustainable development.